Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we will bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we will analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
Thank you for staying tuned. If you're just joining us tonight, our conversation is centered on the licensing of firearms for citizens. And we're asking, if that happens, would it be a source of protection, or will it be a path to anarchy? Now, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation by sending us an SMS to 0818-038-4663. Also, our phone lines are open. You can call us on 070-2500-7749 and also on 0701-4242-420. And let's hear what you have to say. Now, you see, this call by GRV for licensed firearms, okay? Like I said, it's a conversation that has been going on since the recent increase in abductions and all of that, right? So this call that he made has reopened an old but sensitive debate, right? The right to self-defense in a country struggling with widespread insecurity. Now, research has shown that Nigeria has one of the lowest ratio of police officers to citizens in Africa. I mean, I highlighted that during my news time. And, you know, about 219 officers per 100,000 people, far below the UN recommended 300 per 100,000. You know, it also shows that over 500 communities nationwide have reported armed attacks, kidnappings, or killings in the last 24 months. Now, again, it shows that the small arms survey, you know, estimates over 6 million illegal arms, you know, firearms are already in circulation in Nigeria. How? We don't know. Now, on the other hand, experts warn that proliferation of weapons, you know, could worsen crime rates, escalate domestic conflict, and, you know, further overwhelm law enforcement. Okay, but now, I mean, these are I can see the two ends. We're standing in the middle and we're exploring the two ends. So now we're asking: is firearm licensing a necessary response to state failures, or is it a dangerous shortcut that could just destabilize Nigeria completely? Anyway, joining me to unpack this heated debate, I have Dr. Roy Okidibe, the National Secretary, retired members of Nigerian Armed Forces. Good evening, sir, and welcome to the show.
Very much. It's Okidibe.
Oh my goodness, Okidibe. Okay. All right, so let's get right in the conversation. So JRV yesterday argued that the citizens should be legally armed for self-defense because, you know, the system is failing them. And based on Nigeria's security architecture, right, I want to ask, is this argument valid or dangerously, very dangerously simplistic?
Oh, thank you very much for having me, and thank you for this opportunity.
Right.
I recall earlier you said you have a very high energy today. I can see that the whole news desk is packed. Okay, let's take it like this now.
Right.
Before we get into the murky waters. Growing up, I'm 55 right now. Growing up, I know that every home had a machete and a dengon. Every home, in fact, 90% of the houses in the village, either there is a cutlass, a very sharp one, or there is a dengon, you know. And as time goes on, my dad there are a lot of children in our own house in Benin City, Zeko Street. My dad had a double barrel gun, and he brings it out of his room and he shoots it into the sky once in a while. Most times when we hear people screaming in another place, maybe there's a robbery, he brings out his gun. Mr. Osunde brings his own out. Mr. Okwai, Major Okwazu retired. All of them brings their guns out and they start shooting, and they sanitize the environment. Now, no time that did I see any of my brothers carry that gun to threaten their friends or threaten themselves when they were infighting or whatever. No time did I also see where the police came and say they are searching every house, they want to collect the double barrel guns or the cutlasses that people had. Now, along the line, everybody knew that when there's a fight somewhere, you hear the sound of broken bottles in a party, everybody leaves and goes home. But coming into the use of firearm for self-defense, it shows that there is actually paucity of protective measures from government security agencies within the nooks and crannies. Because most times we'll hear of unpoliced areas, we'll hear of outskirts. So I think that is the area where we'll begin to start this discussion.
I mean, the possibility of having firearm, because first of all, I'm wondering, these bandits, where do they get their ammunitions from? You know, I feel like that's like one of the very first conversations we should be having as a nation, right? Because these people, many of them don't look like they are educated. In fact, I would say over 90 of them don't look educated. So how do they know these equipment? How do they figure it out? Because the ammunitions they have are not child's play. It needs some level of expertise, right? So how did we get here? I've been curious. I wanted to ask that question. What do you think?
Okay, we all know, and this is about 25 years of security discussions in public spaces. So we all know, we have mentioned it many times. There was a time when, you remember Martin Luther King? Mm-hmm. So many people want to copy strong narratives. So if a politician wants to win your vote, they get strong narratives. They look for people to put up a document. They begin to communicate academically, and everybody will be like, wow, this is the person I'll vote for. This is the person I'll vote for, And the things that were of concern then was education, lighting, road networks, economy, and all of those things. Gradually, the military began to take over. So when the military coup d'etats began to happen, then no two agencies can carry arms in a government. So the military downplayed equipment handling for the police and downplayed policing. Now, civilians that started to fight for democracy, instead of looking at the academic line also and looking at policing, community policing, they also began to look at building their own military, which were now thugs and hoodlums. Now, the government themselves started to relate with foreign bodies and foreign groups to increase the fear and intimidation that they can create. So we also know that expansion began to take place. People grow, population grow, economies grow, so the country began to expand to nook and crannies. But what did it expand? If you build 2 or 3 houses here today, everybody there will contribute money and get a transformer. because they need light.
Yes.
But they will not get together, the government, local, state, federal, will not get together to ensure that there is a police command immediately instituted as the expansion is spacing out. And there is no increased number of police recruitments to meet the growing population. So hoodlums, anarchy, and non-state actors began to hold grounds.
Interesting. Interesting. But now I'm wondering, with over 6 million illegal weapons, already in circulation, wouldn't legalizing firearms, risk legitimizing an already toxic environment of weapon proliferation?
Well, I don't know where to actually come into this right now that it will make sense.
Okay.
Because most people are already drawn within extreme lines of religion, tribe, ethnicity, party lines. So most times when you try to make sense, the sensibility of your sense loses its sense pattern. So, but agree with me now that we can approve firearm, protective sidearm, which can be a Magnum, a Glock, or just small, just pistols that you can use to do multiple fires to protect yourself, And we can approve this on multiple lines with the Minister of Interior Office, the police command, and the DSS, and all of them becoming lines of approval for such opportunity for Nigerians to bear arms. Let's look at sanity. Sanity is always in the middle of anarchy and peace, okay? Because when you have anarchy and peace, that means you have people that are ready all the time to break the law. Then you have people that are living within the ambit of the law, people that can be held to ransom. So if you look at the areas of people to approve, to say, okay, let's approve some people, why not look at the academic and the professional area? You say, okay, everybody that is an MBA, that is a lawyer, that went to Nigerian Bar Association, if you misuse your firearm, you will lose your bar accreditation. Everybody that is a medical doctor, you are allowed to have a firearm. If you misuse it, you will lose your medical license also. Everybody that is an engineer, Nigerian Society of Engineers, you are allowed to also apply for a firearm. If you misuse it, you look at professional lines. Then you will also look at the media, heads of news. There are people that you can hold to accountability. And you can begin to use this as an opportunity to downscale till you get to security guards companies. Now, when you get to security guard companies, you can say, okay, every discharged police officer that is young enough to still work can own a firearm, but must get approval from the Police Service Commission and the Ministry of Interior. So Police Service Commission will confirm that this police officer is retired and is getting meritorious service. The Ministry of Interior will also do his psychological test, his medical test. He call a psychiatric doctor to check him, to be sure that he has mental stability. Then he's allowed to own a firearm to work in private security. Now, private security companies will also go through that screening process to be able to employ licensed armed persons. And Ministry of Interior, the Civil Defense Corps, all of them will also screen and say any of your personnel that misuses their firearm, it will affect your license renewal. So there are lines of accountability that will hold you to ransom. And you say, okay, ex-military, ex-police, ex-DSS, as a start, before you will be going to civilians. Those are the only people that can get a firearm and can work as a private security practitioner. You know, so
Yeah.
if you work, there are lines, there are things that we can't stay properly on air.
You know, I understand that. But most of these attacks happen in rural communities, right? I mean, you look at the north, most of the attacks are happening in their farmlands, are happening, I mean, look at Kwara State. It was a local church with old people, you know? So these rural civilians who are under frequent attack, right? How do they get to protect themselves? Because, you know, I think when Badebo was saying it on air yesterday, I think that was the angle he was looking at. Because when all of these professionals you've noted have these arms, of course, the target isn't, of course, they can get kidnapped, of course, but the target is mostly on the rural guys. You know, people that you want to term the ground level people in Nigeria. How do they actually protect themselves in this? I mean, it's going to be dangerous giving them firearms, but how do we go about it in this case?
Okay, one of the first things that we need to agree is the military responsibility is to intervene where there is armed incursion.
Okay.
Armed incursion that have gone beyond the capability of the police. That means the police will call the military through any of the channels they have available in their relationship and say, okay, please, we need your intervention. But right now, if you go to count 5 universities in Nigeria, you will see people that read security and intelligence studies. These same people are languishing on the street looking for jobs.
Right.
Now, if you employ this large number of people and you say anywhere there is human presence within a geolocation, there must be a police command. I'm looking at a situation where we are counting the number of Nigerians and we are saying between one police command and the other, these are the number of people that were there. I had a friend that wants to open a pharmaceutical chemist, what we call a chemist in Nigeria, in Lagos. And he told me he can't take a building within this area, because there's one other pharmaceutical firm, a chemist there, that they have a certain span that the government approved. That should be what should be approved for the police. And I say it, anytime you install a transformer in a community, and that transformer is already feeding number of persons at a particular count, definitely the the power producing company will be aware of how many people they are supplying to in that area by only that transformer. Let's forget the political count of a number of Nigerians. INEC said there are so and so registered voters here. Let's forget all those ones. Let's use that transformer now to say, okay, XYZ people are feeding from this transformer times maybe 2 of the people in this area. Then you will know they need a police command in that place. So before you begin to feed the people with the opportunity to protect themselves, allow them to be able to have a police command. That's one. 2, there are citizens from that place that are in high places in Nigeria. NNPC, Chevron, ExxonMobil, they are in US, Canada. They can also come together and say, we are employing Banana Nigeria Limited Security Company. They have approval to deploy armed guards. We want them to cover that our school in the village because we are alumni of the school. So you are backing up the police with armed personnel approved from a licensed private security company who will now employ retired military, police, DSS officers, possibly from your area, to have the connect for language and culture and say, we are going to support the police like this. And the police will say, okay, we need 2 or 3 commands in that place. go to XYZ universities, find out those students that read criminology and security studies that are ready to work as police officers. Don't pay below 300-400K, because that is something that some of these our politicians just transfer to somebody as a token. So we should pay well, employ the academic and enlightened citizens of Nigeria in private security into the police, and allow private security guards company at lines of clearance from Ministry of Interior to the police officers to the NSA to be able to employ approved, accredited, permitted, licensed, armed, retired military veterans, military police, DSS. And in that light, you will have backup for the police and enough police in policing areas.
That makes sense. But we'll go on a very short break, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Please stay with us, sir. You're welcome back. We're still discussing the debate of licensing firearms for citizens in the bid for self-defense. And I have Dr. Roy with me having this conversation. Thank you, sir, for staying tuned. Now, we are talking about the police very well right now. But now, they have repeatedly said to us that we are underfunded, understaffed, overstretched. Now, would arming civilians help them or undermine their authority and operational capacity?
Okay, it cannot. Now, part of the criteria for you to carry a firearm, okay, let me use Texas here. Coming into Texas, I discovered that, okay, to get a license, you need to have an LTC license to carry. That covers you in about 30-something states to carry your firearm, gets to the airport, they put it in the check-in, you come out, you pick it out, Then you have the level 3 armed security license card. You have the level 4, which serves like a personal protection for VIPs and all that. So there are categories. Now, I made sure I got all of these, and I made sure that, okay, anywhere I go, I can carry my firearm, But one thing that we need to institute in Nigeria now is the accreditation and the permit must affect something that you hold dear. So there is nothing like because here the police can call on you if you are licensed to back up the police, Okay. So if you are needed to back up the police, you will know that in your licensing training, skill development, and weapon usage, you are also shown how to collaborate and back up with the police. So before the police, we need that kind of backup anyway. They must have, I'm assuring you that it can take like 3 months to 6 months. You will get enough policing in unpoliced areas in Nigeria. And to pay them will not be a problem, because we have seen, all of us have seen that when it's necessary, 2,000, 3,000 policemen are sent to a place because there's a political rally going on there. So we already know these things. And military personnel, retired military veterans like us, we already know that when it comes to retiring, just promote a general to retire maybe 200 other generals. How are they paid? How are they paid their disengagement allowances? Some of these politicians too, when they want to do some things like they want to bid for this, they want to add any budget like we have seen and forgiven, But when it comes to security, we should be sure that the payment of those police officers do not go to hands that can abuse it. Let me tell you one. If you get innocent vehicles, that is innocent and any other person that does vehicles in Nigeria. So it doesn't seem that we are marketing. Give those vehicles to the police. They will not buy fuel. You will give them a card. They will carry that card to any NNPC gas station, which will also need to spread. Right. And they will have a partnership and just fill up. Now, too, that car, that vehicle, the Hilux, We go back to Innocent or Volkswagen or Peugeot or any other company that produced it and get servicing every 3 months. You know, change the tires, do any patching on the body. So there's nothing like our vehicle is broken down. Take it to the manufacturer. Those guys send their bill to the CBN, and from there, that circle goes on, and you are sure of that recovery. You know, so if you want to look at internet in a police, any of the policing areas, you can liaise with any of the providers and say, put solar there, make sure they have internet to run their drones, to run their reviews on cameras and all of that. So don't give monies to people that you know that will be tempted to divert the use of that. We know about structure, you know, and you can have these financial processes to run some of these things. That is what we are looking at.
And you know, insecurity often thrives on weak justice systems, I must say, and, you know, slow prosecutions. We've seen that over time in Nigeria. Now, I'm wondering, will firearm licenses solve, you know, symptoms without really addressing root causes like the impunity and corruption that we have seen over time?
Look, when the strategy of political terrorism was being implemented in Nigeria, when it was being deployed, the first thing to look at are institutions that are on ground that will serve as impediments. And the next thing will be to pull down those institutions. The apex institution in Nigeria that's supposed to ensure that the Constitution is respected and abided with is the judicial processes, you know. And before you know what was happening, you see judges, because everybody wants to be sound, and before you know, everybody wants to know INEC appeal is coming to his court. Before you know, so many people. So it became like a skit to say, go to court. Go to court. Anything you hear, go to court. Then when the judges, some of them try to show that, they have strong shoulders, you will now hear that monies were found in the sockaway pit of so and so judicial person, or this one was not allowed to become head of Federal Judicial Service Commission, So politicians entered into that. And when politicians entered into that, when they were seeing that, okay, the judiciary is struck, then how do you manage the law? Because it's like, but the law is there. So the National Assembly and the Senate began to do processes to rejig. We now started to have bylaws and all those kind of things that they pop up, Then you will now ask me, what about citizens of Nigeria that are natives of those areas that have problems? I will call his name. Every time I mention his name, people will call me by the side, some of my senior officers, and say, leave that matter. David Mark. David Mark. He was a retired army officer. Am I correct? A military officer. Now, David Mark was Senate president for how many years, man?
A couple of years.
That David Mark that was Senate president was there when TV, Jukun, and so many citizens in Benue were slaughtered.
That's right.
He was there when the killings started. And he's seated at the Senate head, And I went to Benue when I had some deals there. I was in the Nigerian Army's bomb school, also in Makurdi for a while, So I related with the community, and I was like, oh, God, they're there now. What has he been doing towards putting professional strategies in place? So as we speak right now, citizens of attacked communities that are in places in governance that should speak, they have gone comatose.
I mean, I like this conversation, sir, but I'm worried for Nigeria, okay? Because somehow the government seem to know what to do, but are not doing it. It just makes it look like we are going round in circles. Also, I was going to come back to when you talked about if we're going to start licensing firearms, we should start with the professionals, right? Some of these professionals have some psychological issues, right? So how do we do these background checks? How do we do these psychological evaluations? You know, what should be non-negotiable for us as a nation if we're ever going to license firearms for these people?
I've told everyone that the first line to follow in Nigeria is accountability. Accountability, please. If we can institute constitutional accountability, once you see the police, I've told you within the next 6 months, that is before June, you can have unpoliced areas in Nigeria covered. I'm telling you that. Unpoliced areas. How? See, all those areas you don't have police officers, if you tell a bank, Zenith Bank, that build a branch there and build a 2 or 3 banks come together, they can build a regional police office there. I'm telling you, if you talk to the people supplying vehicles and say, can we give them vehicles? You will see vehicles there. Once that is instituted, you will be shocked that the recruitment process is not like we don't have people that want to join the police. So right now, people are paying money to join the police. People are selling their properties for their children to be able to enter the police. So forget military first and make sure you populate police areas, unpoliced areas. Then you will now come back to accountability line, the criminal justice system. You know, all of these things need to work pari passu. Go to the criminal justice system and ensure that certain cases that have brought down this country do not take the normal lines of judgment. They must be executed with speed and timeliness so that the penalty deliverables to the criminals and the perpetrators will immediately reduce how juicy such a thing will be. I used to trek to Kobahi those days. All of us from Izeko Street would trek to Kobahi to go and watch firing squad. And as we are coming back, everybody will be quiet. We'll be quiet because we have seen where they are shooting thieves, you know, the firing squad. So if we follow that line, pari passu, then we are also looking at who are the first set of people. It's not only the academicians. I'm talking also with the retired military police at simultaneous approval levels. I'm talking about security guard companies too, also giving license to provide armed security. I'm talking about, you know, so if we have all of this running the same time and give it 6 months, I'm assuring you that there will be some level of stability.
Amazing, amazing. So just before we wrap up, what should or what must the government do first before even considering this licensing, right? So are we just looking at police reforms, or we're looking at border control, you know, intelligence gathering, arms mop-up? In what order, what should come first for the government?
Nigerian government. Most times when we talk most times when we talk about what will come first, in the next few seconds, what will come first becomes what will come last.
Absolutely.
Because the security dynamics to capture insecurity vulnerabilities is different. Now, if you look at security perpetrators, non-state actors, one of the opportunities they have is the sentiment around their activities. The sentiment, we have called them for plea bargain. We have people going around saying that, oh, they are just fighting. They are not as bad as IPOB. IPOB is saying that, oh, people are killing in the north also. Why are we the only one bad? You know, and before you know, Sunday Igboho want to start his own. And it just becomes a national thing. But if you remove that sentiment and make murder, as in criminal activities, and make them answer to what the law says against that, you know, and there is a bold judge and a system ready to sign into action, whatever judgment is given, then you'll be sure that the government can start to clean up. Then the government itself must tell its people, because every government now is a godfather. It's feeding so many people that are fighting for them online, WhatsApp groups, and everywhere, whether they are doing well or not. You know, it should tell its people that, can we change the narratives in our time? Can we say enough is enough? You know, and any government that can say that in Nigeria may leave office without anything, but the glory of God will shine on him, because he will see the valuable, the valuable variable of his action in our economic growth and stability. And don't forget also, let me lastly put that these guns we are talking about will be manufactured in Nigeria. So it's also an economic angle, and it's traceable, because there are devices you can put on it that we can know where it is at every time once you purchase it.
I mean, I think in one end is a win, but then in another end it scares me, because like we've just said, it takes a really bold godfather, whatever they want to call themselves, to tell his boys, oh, retreat, let's do things right. We almost don't see that in Nigeria. So I hope beyond having these conversations, they would actually do what is right by us and protect the civilians, the citizens of Nigeria. Thank you so much, Dr. Roy, for joining us tonight and having this conversation. Do enjoy the rest of your evening. All right, so tonight's conversation, we've seen, it has forced us to confront a painful truth, that Nigerians are no longer free. We no longer feel free, you know, from the roads to the farmlands, to the suburban estates, to the rural villages. Fear has gradually become something that everybody lives by, right? And when fear grows, people begin to consider desperate solutions, right? That's when you start seeing a lot of self-defense mechanism. But the right to life and the responsibility of protection are not just personal battles. They are the core duty of the state. Now, arming citizens may sound very empowering, like I have highlighted, but it also carries a lot of risk that could reshape the society in a very irreversible way, right? So the answer to insecurity can really not be weapons alone, right? It shouldn't just rise and fall on licensing firearms, right? It must be more intelligence, policing, accountability. Very important to us, more justice, actual justice, not influenced justice. You know, more political will on the people leading us. Because you see, we're a nation, you know, a nation where everybody is armed for self-defense. We're not working towards safety. It is a tightrope, really, for every one of us. Anyway, before we go, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV. Drop a comment, like, share, and follow us across all social media platforms. And if you missed our quote earlier, here it is. It says, security is a shared responsibility, but the state must not outsource its primary duty of protection. And this was said by Solomon Arase. My name is Choma Kalu, and this has been Ways Prime Time. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.